Hello, Nico?
Hi.
All right. We're good when you are.
All right. I'm letting people in now. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. If you'd like to record, just put it in the chat or request it. We're going to get started with head coach Jim Curtin. After his opening statement, we'll go right into questions.
Thanks, Nico. Just to reflect quickly on Pachuca, I thought a solid performance from the group. Obviously, we always want to get a goal when we're at home or multiple goals, but going to Mexico with a clean sheet is a difficult task, but one that anything is still possible. So we've set ourselves up in a good way there. We now look forward to a very strong Seattle team. Coach Brian Schmetzer has done an amazing job of just consistently being a championship team year in, year out. I think his staff does amazing work. His teams all play the right way. They're difficult to play against. We haven't played each other in quite some time, but we know that with their group, even with a couple injuries early in the season, they're a really, really difficult opponent. So, again, we were able to recover pretty quickly, get through the Pachuca game without, any real injuries, just some, fatigue and tired legs. But guys will respond well, and there's no excuses with the tired legs now to have a quick turnaround and put in a good performance against a strong Seattle team.
Thanks, Jim. Jonathan Tannewell.
Jim, we've seen a little more Marcus now each week. What do you think of how he's fitted so far?
Yeah, I think he's done a good job. So when he came into preseason, obviously there's an acclimation period of getting to know your teammates, their strengths and weaknesses. They're getting to understand you as a player, and I say that both on and off the field. He's a great kid, a kid that comes to work every day with a smile on his face. Puts the work in training, is eager to learn, and has had some good performances from us in short amount of minutes, but he's shown his quality. So he's a guy that we'll lean on for more and more minutes as he gets more acclimated and comfortable. But yeah, certainly a good skill set, a striker that has an ability to get that half yard of space to get a shot off. Which you like to see from your strikers. He'll go at a guy 1v1, and then he'll work very, very hard against the ball too, which is important for the way we like to play. So checks a lot of boxes for us. It's early, but we've seen some really good things from Marcus.
A guy who, even people who track Americans in Europe probably haven't heard of him.
Yeah.
How did you find him? And what's your recollection of when Ernst or whoever was giving you and said, "Hey, here's this guy. What do you think?" What did you
Yeah, so our scouting department does a great job. We're willing to mine and go into maybe untapped markets. And Marcus was a kid that we discovered that had a passport, which obviously is beneficial to not counting as an international. And when you turned on the clips and the videos of him, his ability to work against the ball was something that really showed well. He was playing on a team that was, I'll just say, battling, and trying to hang on in relegation type battles, but he still, as a striker, was finding chances on the offensive end, was willing to do the defensive running as well, and had a real aggressiveness and a real pressing mentality, which we thought would fit us. And then some connections start to happen. You piece together some things, and Ernst was able to put a deal together that brings him here, and we know he's going to have a bright future here in Philadelphia.
I hope we can switch over to Zoom. Joe Canty.
Hey, Jim, how are you?
Hi, Joe.
First off, how is Julian progressing?
Yeah, so again, I was hoping for him last game. I'm still hoping for him against Seattle. Wasn't out fully with the team, did work on the side. We'll see how the body responded to that. Trying to get him, he's able to run, sprint, but then that last little, 5% to get to, your max speed is still the toughest to come by. I think he's a little cautious with it still. But today there was a big test while we were training. We'll see how he is. So we'll make a smart decision. But Julian knows his body best. And unfortunately, the first leg of Pachuca, we missed him. We'll see about Seattle. And obviously we have a game Tuesday as well. So he's getting closer. But I can't stress enough just how much any team misses their leading goal scorer.
And then to kind of look forward to the second leg, how much is it kind of risk management, I guess, with Julian's injury? Do you even risk him out there like you did with Andre last week? And then also with the center backs. Damien and Jack obviously don't play Tuesday, but you're going to need them in some capacity next week. How do you balance their minutes? I know the third game is always tough. They're not going to play the third game because they were suspended, but how do you manage those two guys as well?
Yeah, it's tough because we're very early in our regular season and we have a really good opponent in Seattle coming in. We want to win this game, though. We need points. Points are early in a season are very important, especially when you're at home. So we're going to put everything into getting 3 points against Seattle. Will the minutes be, monitored and will we navigate it maybe a little differently than we would if we were on full rest? I think absolutely, but we still have to go for all 3 points against Seattle. That's really our focus. We see how we get through it, and then we have a plan that we'll put in place against Pachuca. So we know how hard that game will be as well. So there's no easy games in this one. The schedule is busy. We can't change it. We have to kind of adapt, adjust, recover, and go again. So I have full confidence in the group that we'll put on the field tomorrow to get 3 points in our home building where we're really strong. And then we'll kind of assess where we're at and put a team together for Pachuca. But certainly, yes, with the amount of games for our center backs, for our midfielders, we have to do what makes the most sense to prevent any injuries, but also find a way to get your best players out on the field together as much as possible, which is not easy, and there's no perfect formula for it.
Jose Nunez?
Hi, Jim. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Wanted to sort of follow up on what Joe just asked in terms of minutes, and obviously Brian was very open in terms of maybe 500 plus MLS appearances not being available for them this weekend. But you also have the challenges, you specifically with the Union, in terms of international call-ups, especially with Venezuela already announcing, U23s coming up, Hungary. Is this where you start thinking about incorporating some of these new faces, so when it comes to Austin and Portland and the later matches in March, you sort of give them a taste before throwing them into the deep end?
Well, look, I think there's a lot of things in there. The busyness of the schedule, in particular this stretch where we're going back-to-back weeks with Champions League games, with travel and all the things that go along with that, it's the busiest part of the year. So this stretch now where we go Seattle and then to Mexico on a Tuesday is really, really difficult. There is a little light at the end of the tunnel. You have a little longer build to Austin, and then you're on kind of a weekly cadence. So, look, we experimented with some things, I thought, in Kansas City where, we gave guys rest for 45 in the first 45 and played them in the second. And I think we had some success and got some good, feedback and a good result doing it that way. With the 5 substitutes now, you can kind of tweak things a little differently. For those that don't know, a 45-minute game is about the equivalent distance-wise, intensity-wise, sprinting-wise, about the same as a good hard training session for these guys. So where you get yourself into trouble is if that creeps up to 60. There's a threshold where you're starting to risk things, 75, even more, and then in that last 15 minutes plus extra time can be the difference between injury, losing a guy's legs completely for the next game. So we have to navigate that, and there's some creative ways where, every guy and every player wants to play every minute, and that's how I want my players to feel. But sometimes we have to take that away from them, do what we think is best, not just for this week, but for the whole season, and have them peaking at the end, which is the most important time. But don't mistake that for us not wanting all 3 points coming up, for us wanting to advance against Pachuca, but we have to do it in a creative and smart way that gives us the best chance to go as far as we can in the Champions League and get points now early in the season against a really tough opponent in Seattle.
Thank you. Best of luck.
Thanks.
Megan Swan.
Thanks, Nico. Hi, Jim.
Hi.
2 questions for you. The first is, you mentioned in your opening, Coach Smetcher does a really good job of making Seattle a championship contender year in and year out. You're also up there in those longest, tenured managers in the league, but I'm wondering if you could kind of comment on what makes him successful on that front. What does it take to be a championship contender year in and year out? And is there anything Seattle as an organization maybe does to kind of put themselves in that position? There's a lot there, but the second question maybe is a bit more straightforward. Just, is there any kind of added excitement with the team, playing a team like Seattle, who might be one of the more successful teams, but also you don't see them as much? So is there any added excitement, or is it kind of just the next team is the next team?
Yeah, look, I think when you think of Coach Schmetzer, you think of Seattle. They're one and the same. As a player, it was always Ziggy and Brian on the sidelines right next to him. And we had some battles, obviously, now even as a coach when I was a young coach in an Open Cup final against them. So there is some history there. But Brian does it in a way, having had the opportunity to talk and be around him, which you always wish was more. But as coaches, we're always just go, go, go. But he's obviously a very intelligent person. You can see that his players love him. They play so hard for him for all 90 minutes. His achievement in the Champions, when it was called the Champions League, and winning that and lifting that trophy is unprecedented in our league. So he's a winner. He's a winner. He's done it at every level. He does it with class, grace, whatever word you want to use, and is really a guy that I admire and look up to as a peer. When the whistle blows tomorrow, we're going to try to beat them, and they're going to try to beat us, and that's how it is. But I certainly from afar admire what he's been able to accomplish. And what people maybe don't understand is how hard it is to do this job with consistency year after year, and always fighting and playing for trophies and being in the playoffs and being a perennial winner. And that's what Brian has given Seattle. You can tell with the players, with the fans, the city, how much they embrace him, the history that's been there. And there's always certain clubs where you think of the club and something pops into your mind, and he's become that for Seattle. Kansas City last week was, you think Peter Vermees right away. So that is as good a compliment as I can give an opposing coach, just for how good he's done it for so long in one organization. So want to beat him tomorrow, though. That's the reality. The second part is the reality is we don't play Seattle a lot now, especially that there's 29 teams in the league and getting bigger and bigger, and less trips to the West Coast, unfortunately. I miss that. I wish that there was every other year we get to go play there, they get to come here. I like that part of things. Playing every team at least once a year was something that I enjoyed. Some of that's gone now, but we'll have a tough task against a team that is very, very dangerous. Yes, they have a couple key injuries. I think that their team will look a lot different as the season goes on. But the group that they have now, it's pretty amazing how many young homegrowns they have that are not just on the field, but contributing big minutes and changing games for them. So it's early in the season, but they certainly have a great core of players, a great coaching staff, and we have a real challenge ahead of us tomorrow.
Thanks, Jim.
Roberto Vincent.
Hi, Jim. How are you? My question is, you guys are in ninth place right now in the regular season. Seattle also is I believe they're in 10th place, and both of you guys are looking for your first win of the regular season in Major League Soccer. So my question is, how do you approach this game on Saturday? Do you feel, is there like a sense of urgency for you guys trying to get a result on tomorrow?
Look, I think both teams have been through the years and know that we're only 2 games in, so you don't overreact to anything. But we also both know, if you watch and analyze Seattle's games, they could have a couple more points already. They deserve a few more points. So that's the way the seasons kind of go. We have the 3 extra Champions League games under our belt. So hopefully, fitness-wise, we have a few more high-intensity games that can be good and bad with a little bit of fatigue. So it's, again, going to be 2 really good teams that both are looking for all 3 points, and it'll be a really tough test against a good opponent and one that we're looking forward to.
Thank you.
And final question, we're going to go to Jonathan Tannenwald.
Jim, you mentioned how long it's been since the Union and Sounders last played each other.
Yeah.
It's been a decade now, amazingly, since the most famous game of all between the 2 teams, in the Open Cup. I'm sure it's one you don't want to remember.
No, it's.
What does it say that it's been that long now since then, and how far things have come?
Yeah, a lot's changed. A lot's changed with, I think, both clubs. I think a lot's changed with, everything about the league and the growth of the league. When you think back on that night, gosh, that was forever ago. You just remember, I think they subbed in Obafemi Martins, and he made the difference. That was a tough night, a tough loss, one where, again, I was proud of my group for leaving everything on the field at a time when, I'll just say, we weren't supposed to be there. You know what I mean? And they had a great team. Dempsey and Obafemi, when they got going, it was difficult to play against. But they had a great group. We were close, didn't get it done on the night, and it is crazy to think that is 10 years ago now. That's one that catches me off guard a little, Jonathan, I got to be honest. But yeah, tough night, obviously, and great game that didn't go our way.
All right, thanks, Jim. Thanks, everyone.
For sure. Thank you.